Hello, good morning and good afternoon, everybody joining us today for another attributed episode. I'm very happy to see all of you joining us live. And during the session, please feel free to ask any questions and discuss with us live. Other than that, tune into this podcast as soon as it goes live on Spotify or other platforms as well. Today, I'm very pleased to talk about the new marketing operations together with Audrey. Audrey, welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be here. I'm looking forward to diving into all things marketing ops. So let's get started.
Fantastic. Yeah, and when we're saying new marketing operations, well, we're going to unpack what's new in there, how are we approaching this, how is or are all of the companies working with marketing operations nowadays. So, Audrey, for people who do not know you at the audience and do not know your work, could you give us a short introduction about yourself?
Absolutely. My name is Audrey Harze. I'm the CMO at marketingops.com. Gosh, I started my journey kind of where I am now quite a while ago. I'm not going to date myself, but originally I'm from Canada, Toronto, and there's a telecom company there called Rogers. It's kind of similar to Comcast, which would be here. And they had an iMedia division, which was their internet division. And back in that day, it was like technical services. It wasn't really called marketing ops, but I was already kind of weaving through the CRM and understanding. Back then it was Goldmine and Crystal Report. So kind of way back in the day. But yeah, that's where I've kind of started my journey. And through various kind of companies and my own agency, I kind of came to a point of wanting to dive a little bit deeper. And I joined the marketing ops community just as a regular member. And at the time, Mike, who's the CEO and founder, he had asked, pulled out in the community and just said, hey, I'm looking for some help. So I popped over there and I said, hey, Mike, I'd love to help out. And we instantly connected, and that kind of journey to CMO started. So I got in there, looked at the systems, took on that marketing ops role, and then moved into more of a community and then CMO role, which has been an amazing journey. And so now I'm really focused on helping the ops community, kind of claim its seat at the strategy table. We're looking to expand our membership program. We're looking to build out certification. We have our big Mopsapalooza event at the end of October for marketing ops and rev ops professionals. So yeah, things have been really booming, and it's been amazing. So.
Yeah. Fantastic. We have been seeing this role evolve for quite many years now, because before in time you would hear a marketing technologist or maybe just operations in those types of roles. So before you joined the marketing operations, how did you see the perception of marketing operations role change in general from what it was before and where it is going right now?
Yeah, I feel like before it was a very almost tech support style role. It moved from maybe that, and then it moved a little bit to more of an order taker, taking in those orders from everyone that needs it. Very reactive, fix the tool when it's broken kind of thing. And then I feel like it shifted a little bit more where we're building systems. I'm really big on systems and structure because it helps you to elevate more strategically what you're doing and clear a path to that. So I feel like that's more of the direction that we're going is the systems, the strategy, and then more strategically build. The other layer that I feel that is really kind of elevated marketing ops, and I'm sure everyone's talking about it, is AI, of course. And I'm not going to go deep into it, but I do feel it's important to talk about because it's really shifting the way that I think marketing ops is going to be in the future. For a long time, we were just adding tools to our tech stack and, figuring out where they fit. And now we need to kind of rethink that a little bit and maybe tighten up our tech stack because AI adds in this other layer. And I think marketing ops professionals, especially because we understand all the tools, we understand the systems, the flow, and the strategic outcome. We're the ones that kind of integrate that really strategically into the entire org. So I'm kind of looking forward to that kind of major shift that's coming.
It is. And we have seen it starting to happen, or at least a
Mhm.
request for operations and for marketers to use more AI. It's not just the technological part of it, but also, of course, how can we speed it
Right.
all up? But then you're left with the whole spaghetti of where do we put all this data really?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that is definitely the struggle right now, for sure. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
The title of the episode is The New Marketing
Mhm.
Operations. So, walk me through what you see is new in this comparing to where we were before, and what type of old marketing operations we're replacing.
Yeah, so as I kind of mentioned, I think we were kind of an execution engine. I kind of feel like, building that
Yeah.
campaign, you got to run the report, you got to manage the tool. It was these kind of task-based things that we were, made to do. And we're now, I feel like we're coming into more of a strategic role. And because we're starting to understand, yes, we understand all the systems, but because we have such a strong understanding of the systems, we're able to inform the strategy so much better because we're able to see the entire kind of flow. And so to me, the new marketing ops is, yes, strategic infrastructure, but it's actually more of an intelligent infrastructure. So, it's this
Mhm.
idea that, it's not like AI powered dashboards, that no one really trusts. I'm not trying to go there. It's more of like the systems that are designed by people. And the
Mhm.
people understand the strategy, they understand the tech, they understand the outcomes. And because we have that knowledge, where we're able to very, very strategically align with, the business outcomes and what I know we're going to talk about this later, but what this, the CEO and the CFO want. So that's, I think, the sweet spot for marketing ops, because that's not something that a lot of professionals have insight into.
Right. So kind of building out the whole architecture of what type of data we're looking into and where does it come from, so you can trust it
Exactly,
basically.
exactly. Because I feel like, with every new tool that we have, like attribution, automation, AI, whatever it is, it kind of raises the stake on our judgment. And this is part of like operational
Mhm.
intelligence, but someone has to decide like what actually matters. Like someone has to decide, is this tool worth it? Is it something that integrates within our stack? Is it something that's going to drive the business outcome that we need to drive? And I feel like that, because there's so many tools, that is even more important than ever. And AI is only enhancing that. And that's where marketing ops can be so much more strategic in doing that.
Got it. And absolutely agree. And you touched upon saying that those AI generated dashboards that nobody trusts. Can you double tap on that? Because I want to make sure that we know what we're talking
Yeah.
about.
Well, I think, like there's just so much data. Like it's crazy. There's
Yeah.
just so much data. And right now I think it's fairly difficult to really figure out the important metrics. I think a lot of times there's a lot of noise. I think AI tends to bubble up a lot of that noise. Like, it can actually, filter out a lot of things and find patterns for you. But again, that's where the judgment comes in, where you have to figure out for yourself, what is the actual signal? What is the actual main data that we need for our business that's really going to drive the outcomes that we need? And so a lot of times I think these flashy AI dashboards that are pulling all the, numbers and all the data, they might be showing you some things, but are they showing you the important things? Are the actual important
Yeah.
metrics being shown that you actually need to drive forward? So I think that's what's really important. So not getting caught up in the shiny
Understand.
tool. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. We've got two very important questions
Mhm.
that tap into the topic that we're speaking about. So, one of them is about marketing operations people being moved to more go to market engineering roles like orchestration, execution across the growth tactics. So, do you see a clear distinction between those, or is it too early so far?
I actually think it's going to go personally, yes, to GTM engineering. I do feel like they're going to be merging. I don't know if that's anytime soon, but I feel like there's so many similarities between what marketing ops professionals do and what GTM engineering is. And so, yes, absolutely. I do see that those two things are going to merge eventually down the road. Yeah.
Yeah. And it probably also gets even closer to RevOps,
Yeah.
marketing operations, to those all of the roles being aligned into one organization. Because before in time, we used to see marketing operations being order takers for the
Right.
marketing
Exactly.
team.
Hmm.
So you are kind of the order taker, and you are in the marketing team. But then as soon as we start moving marketing operations into that bigger goal of all the data orchestrations for our go-to-market, that's where we're probably seeing that type of
Absolutely.
shift.
I totally agree with that.
I had that next question myself, but we're going to pick it up at this very
Okay.
point. So Chris is asking us, what is your approach for reaching strategic alignment? And it points back to how are we getting buy-in from the C-level at the organization for strategic alignment, both for the operational role, but also what is it that we're measuring? So walk us through how you reach that type of strategic alignment on the C-level.
Yeah, this is actually really, really important because, again, as marketing ops professionals want to be, kind of get a seat at the table, want to be seen as more strategic. What you need to bring to the table is not just the campaign metrics, which I know we're all very familiar with, but we have to kind of lead with business impact. We have to understand what is the CEO, CFO, C-suite, what is it they need? And again, this is, sometimes different for a lot of the organizations out there. What is it that they need to feel like there's growth happening, there's movement happening, and you need to really, really key in onto those metrics. So leading with business impact. So what does that look like? And this can look like a few different ways. You can try to show what time to market is like. So how fast can you ship a new program? Like that's maybe a metric that you can look at. You can look like the cost to scale something. So what does it cost to maybe add a new region to your program or a product? If there's like a signal lag, so how quickly do we know if something's working or if something's failing, which I think is even more important, obviously. So it's like showing the math of speed and time and then waste. And I think that's what provides clarity for the C-suite, not only because it maybe shows them directionally where they might need to do or make decisions, but it helps them to understand that what the business is about and how to strategically make decisions to help them make decisions. And I think that kind of proves your clout a little bit, that you're not just a campaign metrics person, or you're not just looking at the numbers kind of linearly, but you're understanding them deeply and how they can impact the business. Yeah, did I answer that?
In terms of this type of strategic alignment, do you see marketing operations delivering the reports and being at the table, working the reporting for the leadership? Or would they usually be the ones providing the data for somebody else to build their reports? Where I'm trying to get into is that we're seeing operations being more and more strategic. Do they already have a seat at the table to report and guide the strategy, or is it still delivering the respective metrics for the C-level?
Yeah, I feel like it's moving more towards a seat at the table where they're delivering it, like actually presenting those metrics. So not just, maybe building it with their team, but actually coming to the table and presenting those. And that's definitely where I think it's going to go anyway. So even if it's just getting started, I think that's where marketing ops will be. So as a marketing ops professional, it's incredibly important to be able to level up in that regard, being comfortable with those numbers, being comfortable presenting those numbers, understanding why you're presenting them the way you're presenting them to the people in the room. And again, it's just proving like leveling up your own kind of professionalism in terms of, not just being that campaign order, but literally understanding how the business is run. I think that's where marketing ops is going.
Agree. And I'm happy to hear that, because your community has been booming
Yeah, it
for a
really
reason,
has.
because it's
Mhm.
important.
Absolutely.
Nice. Yeah, and I'm happy to see that type of a shift, because these types of professionals, they definitely need a group of people to be able to guide also what is it the best practice that we're looking into. And from here, let's get a little bit more into the tactics of operational intelligence. You speak about the operational intelligence. Could you break it down for us? What does it mean for you? And then each and every of those.
Yeah. So operational intelligence to me, it's kind of like this filter or lens that I use for um, understanding the chaos and complexity sometimes of marketing operations. I guess that's the best way that I can kind of say it. So it's something that is kind of like is, a little bit more in my head than actual like a framework. But if I was to break it down, I break it down into 3 kind of pillars. The first is like structure that scales. So whenever I'm building systems, whenever I'm thinking through various structures and infrastructures, I'm always thinking, okay, so what if we 3 times our pipeline or our team? Like, what does that look like?
Mhm.
And will this build, will this structure, will it break under that pressure? So it's the idea of like ownership models and data hygiene and process standardization. Like, how is the weight of like growth? Can it scale? Is basically what that is. So structure that scales. The second pillar is the signals that matter. So this is kind of the difference what we were talking about earlier between like having obviously lots of data and then making decisions. So what signals tell you to move? Which ones are just noise? Which ones are actually tied to revenue, which obviously is incredibly important. And so that skill is knowing which signals to trust and which to ignore. So signals that matter is the second pillar. The third one is strategic judgment, which I think is incredibly important. This is a little bit more of the human edge, and it takes a little bit more of a little bit of flexing, and learning for yourself, I think, So it's applying context and timing and, trade-offs to all the decisions that you're making. It's what keeps it's deciding if the automation is, turning into a fast mistake or if it's, waiting for the long run. Speaking or touching a little bit on AI again, I think that judgment matters actually even more now than I think ever before, because AI can optimize very well, I think, but it can't necessarily tell you why something matters or whether you should act on it. And I think that's where human judgment really comes into play. And again, because we are so, in my mind, overwhelmed with AI right now, because obviously it's very new and it's very fast paced and things are changing daily. Our judgment is kind of like our moat right now. And ops people have been kind of building that moat for years. And now we need to kind of lean in really hard on using that and using that judgment to decide strategically which things are where we lean into and which things we pull back on. So that's where strategic judgment kind of comes into play. So,
Right.
so yeah, structure that scales, signals that matter, and strategic judgment are the 3 kind of pillars.
And if you look into the structures that scale, we had a question about the tech stack as well. When you are joining in a marketing operations team at a new company, what types of tech stack are you looking for? Or at least what types of tools, what types of functions are you looking for? And what is key for a marketing operations person to have? Or what is it that you might need to add or remove usually?
Yeah, I would usually, it's been a minute since I joined a marketing ops team, but if I was, I would definitely just do an audit of the tech stack first and kind of figure out what they currently have, and then figure out obviously where the gaps are. So, the CRM system, what automation tools they have, obviously any kind of data, warehousing tools they might have, it kind of depends, I guess, on the organization, but kind of understanding what that is, determining where the gaps are. But even before deciding, and I think this is where people might get caught up a little bit, I know I have, is even before deciding what new tools to add, and I know I get excited about new tools all the time, to be honest, but it is first understanding what's the strategy, like what is our goals, what are our objectives. So it's actually having those conversations with the teams that are, you're going to be working with, because I think that part is often missed. And I think that's actually where you start. It's almost like working backwards in a way. You start there, and then you understand what that looks like. And then you start to find the tools that would work best within the system to make sure that everything flows. Yeah.
Right. And agree. It is walking backwards exactly also from your operational intelligence breakdown, because you won't be able to do the judgment if you don't know what is it that we're
Exactly.
judging in terms of the data itself. So before building out the structure of the data, you need to understand what the team is going to use it for. So your later are well connected and know all of the whys, why the data is looking the way it does.
Exactly.
Nice. So In your day-to-day role, when talking about this type of operational intelligence, how do you apply those types of tactics in day-to-day?
Yeah, I guess from a day-to-day standpoint, that's a really good question because I feel like a lot of times it's just kind of happens like in your
Yeah.
head, like you don't really like break it down. But I guess, I usually start with like I'm a big audit person. Like I like to look at, if a problem arises, or even if it doesn't, if I'm just kind of thinking strategically, I'm seeing a gap somewhere, or I know we need to shift and focus on something a little bit different based on the market, based on our audience, based on any number of factors. I'll usually take a step back and kind of lean into what I was saying earlier. Like, what is it I'm trying to accomplish? What is the
Mhm.
ultimate strategy here? So, again, kind of like working back. So once I understand that, and it might take a little bit of time to kind of understand that, and I think that actually is okay because leaning in hard to that and taking the time to really flesh that out is actually going to help all the other things that you need to do. So the strategy first, understanding the objectives and the outcomes. And then from there, looking at the various kind of either departments or tasks or campaigns and figuring out how to break them down so that they roll up to that. So if I was looking at a specific campaign, for example, and I knew I needed to hit a certain objective around, I don't know, let's say it's number of leads to be really simplistic here. And if a client was complaining that leads weren't coming in like they'd hoped, and they immediately thought that the creative was, not right, or the messaging was not right. And I'm like, okay, that's valid. Let's have a look. And so I'll immediately kind of like roll back and like, okay, let's look at the strategy here. Let's look at the structure. And maybe it wasn't that. Maybe it's actually our lead routing was wrong, or maybe, we weren't scoring it properly. So
Mhm.
breaking that down and then understanding what that is, and then looking at obviously the data and seeing where the gaps are. So it's like this very like systematic way of looking at every single thing based on what you're ultimately trying to accomplish. And that makes it easier because I'm able to go back to the client and say, well, actually, when we originally we're launching this campaign, or I'm going back to my team, leads weren't actually the goal. Like, I'm just, and as an example, maybe
Mhm.
leads weren't actually the goal. Maybe we were actually looking for something else. So, but if you already know strategically that that was what you were looking for, it's very, very easy to figure out where the gaps are. I think that's yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Very insightful. And when you speak with operational professionals also in your community
Mhm.
too, where do you think the biggest mistakes happen for marketing operations? And that is usually lesser of importance rather than how much marketing operations is using their time on.
Um, I think not pushing back,
Uh-huh.
a lot of times, we get things from various teams, can you take care of this, or launch this, or deploy this, or, that kind of thing. And it's not a fully fleshed out strategy. I know I've been in a lot of positions where, whether it's because of like there's an urgency around it because it's a last minute request, or around something that just kind of needed to be pushed out the door, and there wasn't like the strategic kind of thinking behind whether that's a good idea or not, whether it's aligning again
Yeah.
with our business outcomes and our business goals, whether it's great for maybe the client, depending on your org. um, and it's so pushing back and saying, actually, that's probably not the best thing that we should be doing. Let's talk it through and let's strategically find how we need to align to actually make it be really successful. Mhm.
Love that. That's why you are in this type of a role, because you don't think in silos. You go across the organization, understanding how the systems are connected. When talking about going across and all the shiny
Mhm.
features, you like tools, but when getting the tools in place for marketing, who's usually in the driver's seat in the companies that you speak with in your community? Is that the marketer or the operations who will have to connect so far from what you see from your
I so
experience?
far see it's the marketing ops person that's driving that,
Uh-huh.
and I believe they should. I feel that they have the most knowledge about the systems, how the systems connect, how the systems flow, how everything connects, what is needed when,
Yeah.
how to access it. Like, it makes total sense for them to be the ones to understand the entire tool stack. Um, so yeah, absolutely, that's where it sits.
Got it. Got it. So now if we're talking about a new operations
Mhm.
professional who starts at a new company, what are their key things that they have to have a look at when they just join the new company?
Okay, tech stack, I think, is important. They need to meet with, like I alluded to earlier, meet with the various teams and understand what those teams need, understand what their goals are, understand, like, if hopefully there is, but any SOPs that are in place, or current kind of processes that they are using. So understanding those as well. I think it's important to understand how things roll up for your role. So who do you report to? Who do they report to? And then what's your path to the C-suite? So understanding what that looks like, and if there's opportunities for you to be in that room, depending, I guess, if the role is set up that way. And if it's not, then how can you make that happen? So strategically thinking about that as you're maneuvering within the organization. Yeah. And then I guess your team, if you have one, depending, obviously. I think that might be it.
Then you're good to go.
Yeah.
Now we have to ring the bell because we got a question about AI. So
I love it. Let's go.
We were anticipating, will we get a question about AI?
I could talk about AI all day.
All right. So, Chris, as a marketing team leader, how do you approach governing the use of AI to ensure it's amplifying your strategy instead of pushing against it? Love the question. Thank you so much, Chris.
Yeah, that's a really great question. And I do have to admit I struggle with it because I know I'm like a hyper AI. Like, I love AI. I use it all the time. I'm always trying new ways to integrate it within some of the things that we do to, be more efficient. And then also balancing, like, the fact that a lot of this stuff is just so, it's a work in progress, I guess, is the best way to put it. So I guess my approach is curiosity, I think, is really, really important. But like with the team and within marketing ops, I think it's just really important to research and understand the foundational aspects of AI. So if you just pull back from the kind of fluff of AI, like, hey, Sora 2 just came out and you can, create video, and that sounds really cool, but that has like zero application. So if you can pull back a little bit on that kind of like the fluff of it and look at like the foundational aspects of AI, and to really lean into how that can inform and amplify your strategy, I think that's what's really important. So again, using your judgment on the things that you think will stick around, the things that you think will ultimately enhance what you're doing, and lean into those and kind of let the other stuff kind of play out. I'm not sure if that answers your question, but I think that's kind of how I see how AI plays out for me.
Would you leave some pockets for that type of experimentation for some teams to
absolutely. Like
the
team that I work with now, we do that all the time. Like we're constantly testing tools, a little bit because it's kind of fun, and also just because we want to understand and learn and kind of be future forward in what's happening. But even with that, we often have to pull back and be like, okay, that's fun and all, but does that really help us with our business? Does that really help us with our clients? Is that really pushing the needle? And usually, honestly, most of the time it's not, because the foundational stuff is what matters.
There we go. Yeah. There we go. It's fun. Yeah, it's fun, and you would expect it to deliver so much more for you. But then what you got delivered, you still need to guide it with your own principles and understanding of the background data too. For all of the operations professionals that are listening to us right now, is there some tactical moves they could do today or during this week to be able to be kind of to drive better governed systems?
Yeah. I think if I was to approach that, I would probably pick one thing. I find this easiest for myself is, instead of being overwhelmed by all the things, I pick one thing, one workflow, or one, maybe there's a strategic outcome that I'm focused on. Pick one thing and then break it down, and break it down like literally every single thing, the handoff, the tool, the people involved, the decisions you make, just every single step. And then just kind of be honest about, where are the points where it slows down? or where things get dropped, or where something has to be manually fixed. And if you can map that out, let's say in this example of a workflow, that's when you can kind of apply like a little bit of the operational intelligence in terms of understanding, okay, where does this break? Like when it's under pressure, where is like the communication lost, or where is that data like not being found, or, so that kind of pressure. And then you can identify the signal that is breaking before it fully breaks. So like almost like an early warning system. So if you're trying to understand, a certain KPI or metric and you're not quite getting there, or maybe it's blended and it's not coming out the way that you hoped, you're able to understand from breaking it down. And then lastly, you can figure out, where the judgment's being broken down. So if the communication isn't happening somewhere, or maybe a decision was made about a certain flow that just isn't quite getting you where you need to be, you can, again, switch that out. And so you break everything down, you apply the 3 kind of pillars, and then from there, you look at your most highest impact break, and you fix that first. So once you understand what the highest break is, you fix that. And then from there, you can flow with everything else. And I think by doing that, like tactically, like when you're talking about how you can apply it to day-to-day stuff, I think that's the easiest way that I kind of see how to approach things is focusing on one thing, not all the things, just one thing. Yeah.
Yeah, and then we're taken away from that kind of order takers. Go fix that,
Right.
do this, or execute this campaign. If there's something that is breaking more or less every time, work on the bigger problem to unpack it as well and understand why this is happening. I love that. And that's where we want marketing operations to be as well. They will help us with the order taking, but if we don't roll it up to the top and understand why this is happening or breaking at the first place, then it's a bit tougher to get the help we
Absolutely.
need.
I totally agree.
Audrey, for the upcoming 2-3 years, because you speak with so many operations professionals, and I've seen the role changing so much over the last 5 years. For the upcoming 2 to 3 years, where do you think the biggest challenges will come for marketing operations?
Yes. Okay. So I think that there's in the next 2 or 3 years, I think there's going to be probably 2 camps of marketing ops professionals. I think there are some that are still going to be maybe in execution mode, maybe managing tools, running reports, putting out fires, that kind of thing. And I think that some of that will be helped with AI and some integrations there, but there'll still be someone that kind of manages that or makes that happen. So maybe more execution. But then there's this other group that I feel like is definitely where we're leaning into more, is the more strategic kind of group. The ones that are designing systems that inform those decisions strategically. So not just supporting campaigns, but have the more strategic outlook. They're kind of like the ones that leadership will call on, when they're making big bets, because there's like an inherent trust that has been built over time. Like, we're thinking over 2 or 3 years, and they keep coming to the table and they keep bringing that strategy, right? With whether it's with the reporting, whether it's with insights on the tools and the tech stack. And so they would create that synergy and that trust, and so leadership will start trusting their decision, their strategy more. So it's just like this symbiotic relationship. So I think marketing ops people will be the ones that will say, this is what we need to build. This is how we need to build it. This is how it fits into our systems. And this is ultimately the outcome because of it. So again, the rollback, they understand the strategy of the organization. And because of that, they are able to roll back, look at the entire system and infrastructure, and know exactly what needs to be built and how. And I think that's the kind of the sweet spot. And then they can also, like, the other sweet spot is because they're able to say, because we know the cost of not doing this. Like, we know that if you don't, here's the whole list of things, problems it's going to cause. This is how you're not going to get what you need for all the C-suite. This is how you're not going to get what you need. So yeah, I think that there's going to be 2 pockets. I think AI is going to be a big disruption, but I think actually in a very positive way for marketing ops people. Because I think that they're the ones that can take hold of that and really integrate it smartly and well. So I think the companies that will kind of win in 2 to 3 years, you know, if we're looking ahead, are really the ones that let ops people do that, like, you know, lean into them kind of being strategic and letting them lead in that regard, because they're definitely ready. Like, again, we have so many years of experience in that space. It's absolutely, we're ready. So
I love this future
yeah.
outlook. And wrapping this up, Audrey, you're arranging Mops
Yay.
Appalooza. And a lot of marketers, yay, yeah. Tell us, of course, when it is, who are you awaiting to come? But my question is, since people are able to suggest their topics and vote for the topics that they want to see during the event, what are the trending topics? So give us the breakdown
Okay,
of the
sure.
event.
So you can go check it out, obviously, at mopsapalooza.com. But the rundown is, this is like the best community event ever for marketing ops and revs ops professionals. It's in Anaheim, California, and it's October 27th through 29th. So it's coming up in just a few weeks. So get your ticket if you haven't. We have about 400 to 500 professionals showing up. We have a pre-conference. We call it Camp MOPSA. It's akin to we used to do these smaller summer camps, and we've rolled it into Mopsapalooza. So it's called Camp MOPSA, where we have like little workshops that you can do on the Monday. But then the actual conference itself happens the next few days, and we got a ton of great speakers. And plus we have great, we have game night, and we have like a scavenger hunt, and, you know, dinners. And so everything that you would expect from a really fun conference. So I'm really looking forward to that. We also have a women's breakfast that I'm running, Mops and Mimosas, which will be great. Yeah, so some of the things that I can talk about is in terms of the agenda. So career stuff, obviously, which is very important for a lot of people right now. What does that look like, you know, as you're maybe job hunting or maybe just growing your career? That's one. What are some of the skills you need as a marketing ops and rev ops professional today and kind of beyond through 2026? What does that look like when you're trying to master 15,000 tools plus AI and, you know, everything else? Obviously some tech stack stuff, which is, you know, important. There's various ones in there for everyone's map that they want to talk about. I'm just kind of going through seeing what else there is. Yeah.
Nice.
We have some no BS demos, which is great. So that's like kind of more hands-on stuff where you can actually demo certain tech if you want to understand that a little bit better. And we do talk a lot about how you can get a seat at the table from a C-suite standpoint. And that's a really big thing for us, especially as we move to launch certification for marketing ops, because that's definitely a track that we think is going to be important for a lot of professionals. Yeah, you know, funnels and, you know, all the good stuff, like everything that you'd expect from a great marketing ops conference. So
yeah, a lot of opportunity to learn,
yeah.
but also to figure out how can you enhance your career by seat at the table, but also the next career move if you're planning that as well.
Absolutely.
Love that. Thank you so much for arranging this. There are not a lot of events
Yeah,
for marketing
you know, we
operations.
felt that way too. And it's such, well, you know, the marketing ops community is fantastic. Like they show up, they help out, like everyone's always, you know, got each other's back. So it's really nice to be in person and to be able to see a lot of those faces, you know, in the room together. So I'm really looking forward to it. It's going to be a lot of fun. Yeah.
Great. Great. We were able to experience that at our New York, at your New York event at
Yes.
our office. We did that twice already. And the people from MOPS community that show up there are just fantastic and so ready to help to each other. But also the conversations that are happening in the room are very, very helpful for career growth and for any types of tactical work that you're doing at your jobs. Thank you very much. And Audrey, thank you so much for joining us for this live today. I'm very happy that we saw so many questions in the chat as well. Everybody who is on the live, please go follow Audrey, reach out, go attend Mops Appalooza as well. And if you haven't done so, go and listen to the previous episodes of Attributed as well.
Thank you so much, Laura. Take care, everybody.
Thank you.